So it's Adrien Vroillant for my surname. And so I am a postdoc in the Maestro group, so from which several of the previous speakers was a part of it, but also other people. And I am going to introduce you some algorithms that allow to reconstruct some noise, some noise into the general Langevin equation. So the global equation, it's as usual, you have high-dimensional systems, and you want to have a reduced dynamical model. So of course you have several questions, several important questions. One is how do you choose the collective variable, the variable you are going to use to reduce your problem. But once you have chosen your collective variable, the first question we are going to assume it's chosen previously is how do you infer the dynamic. So really like what it's your reduced dynamical model you are going to implement. Of course, you have many interests for doing this. Once it's simply you have a simpler equation, so you might get better interpretability into your equation, but also you can rearrange the dynamic and it will be much faster by launching the full molecular dynamic simulations. So this is the question with forward. I'm going to put you the more mathematical questions. I'm asking you, give me some trajectory that come from some simulations, and I want to fit a generalized Langevin equation on it. So I'm not going to introduce a lot about general Langevin equation. The previous speaker already do a very good job about introducing it. But really, this is the question I'm interested in. How do you get the parameter into this equation? And by parameter, I am speaking of the memory kernel, but also of the noise and the force field. The second question is once you have your generalized Langevin equations, you will want to generate new trajectory from these equations, and so you want to go from having one or several trajectory coming from your simulation, and you'll be able to generate a lot of new trajectory coming from your reduced model that will have the same property that the original trajectory. So we are going to choose a particular model to introduce to do this reduced dynamical model, and we are going to introduce an auxiliary or hidden variable approach. So that's an approach that has been present in the literature for quite a long time, and I know, for example, tomorrow we'll have talk about it. But this is the model we are choosing, and so how does it relate to the generalized Langevin equation? So the idea is you choose an extended Langevin equation. So you take your generalized Langevin equation, you say, I am going to add some variables that are aiming to capture the most important degree of freedom. So you are assuming, well, if I was able to just add, like, I don't know, 10 extra degree of freedom, I will be able to have a nice Langevin equation about my system. But actually, I'm only observing one or two variables. And so I cannot know them, is why we are going to call them hidden variables. So the H here is going to represent the hidden variables. And the noise in this equation is going to be a Gaussian white noise, so you really got Langevin equations. These equations are equivalent in the sense that if you do a formal solution to the last equation, put it back into the first one, you will actually end up with general Langevin type equations, with the caveat that the memory kernel is now a sum of a Dirac term. So it's a Dirac term because I tip the noise into the velocity. But also a promissory that it's a sum of decaying exponential with the decay can be complex. So that actually forces you to have a particular form of memory kernel. But actually that's not too bad because this form is quite versatile and you can really have a lot of memory kernel, a lot of form of memory kernel that can be approximated by this form. So the nice thing with this approach, it's going to be Markovian, and as I'm going to show you, Markovianity it could be quite powerful tool to extract the parameter of the equations. Of course, you have the cost to introduce an auxiliary or hidden variable that you are going to deal with it. So the new questions, now it's given a collective variable trajectory, how do I get the parameter of my equation? The nice thing is now the matrix A that I have introduced, that transposes the memory kernel, adjust number. So I just imagine I choose to have 5 hidden dimensions. I just have to compute 5 by 5 matrices, plus for this one, plus some over. So it's like with 20 number, I get my full parameter, my full equation that is parameterized. I will also introduce some parameterization of the force field in order to only have to infer parameter, so only number. So I will do infer the parameter. I'm going to use something called the expectation maximization algorithm. That is an iterative algorithm well known to deal with this type of equation with hidden variables. So the algorithm is going to use two steps. One is we're going to call the expectation step or the step, that will allow you to recover in the hidden variable history, so recovering the noise history. And the other part is the end step, the maximization of the likelihood step that allows you to recover the parameter. And that is going to be very similar to Karen earlier talk. And once you have your model, well, the nice thing is when you have your parameter, this is a completely generative model, so you can run trajectory very easily from these equations. It's even a Markovian equation, so you have no like long time integration to do over the past history. You can just run it fast the trajectory. So let me introduce you the expectation maximization algorithm. First, few technical details. So I tell you I'm going to use the parameterizations of the elements. So I'm just going to call big theta my full set of parameters. So this is all the parameters I'm going to parameterize. So I have to use some like projection into functional basis of the force. So I can either use linear basis or simply assume that the force comes from the potential of midfield and have only one coefficient of it. So I'm going to first discretize the dynamic because you cannot really deal in computer with zero time step limit. So you have to introduce some time step into your sham. So you have to use some numerical sham. Here you are going to use another sham. But mostly you have to choose some time step that you try to take to be the time step from your dynamic. And the smallest possible such that this equation is approximately valid. So here you have a Gaussian white noise. You have some mean term that give you the mean displacement given the previous history of visible and hidden variables. And I mean you start from some point, so that will give you the future positions. The nice thing about this equation is that now you have, if you are interested into the transition probability, so the probability to finish, I mean, after one time step into some positions, velocity and hidden variable value, given the previous time step, this is a completely Gaussian transition probability, so it's completely determined by this mean and covariance. So first, let's introduce the steps of reconstruction of the hidden variable. So assume that you know the parameter. If you are knowing the parameter, due to the Markovianity of the system, you can use a predictor-corrector smoother approach. How does it work? You start from time 0, and you start with an estimation from the value of the hidden variable at time 0. Using these equations, you can predict, I mean, with some uncertainty, the value of the hidden variable at the next time. So assume you start at time t minus 1, you want to go at time t. But at time t, you know the value of the hidden variable that have been taken into the dynamic. So you can do a filtering step and reduce the uncertainty of the value of the hidden variables at time t. And you are going to go from time 0 to the end of your trajectory doing this iteratively. Once at the end of the trajectory, you will get an estimation of the hidden variable value given the past trajectory. But you will be interested to get the estimation of the hidden variable given the full trajectory, so you are going to do a smoothing step that goes backward into time and simply use both previous and after value of the visible variable to get an estimation of the hidden variable. At the end, what you get is a probabilistic reconstruction, hence you have a stochastic reconstruction of the noise. And you can see it work quite well, because actually what you can show is that given everything is Gaussian here, this probability is a Gaussian, as a Gaussian distributions. So you only have to know its mean and covariance, and they are just numbers, so you can store very efficiently. So here I give you an example. I have run some trajectory coming from my Model, I show some parameter. I am trying to reconstruct the hidden variables using this algorithm. So in red, you have the real trajectory that you can follow, and you find in blue the estimation of the mean plus some plus and minus sigma that come from the width of the Gaussians. So you can see that you actually construct quite well the history of the hidden variables. So this is the E-step. But the E-step requires to know the value of your parameter. Hence, you are going to introduce the maximum likelihood step. And you may assume that you know the hidden variable, but you know because of the previous step. Hence, you can write the probability of having seen the trajectory you have. Thanks to the Markovianity, it's a very simple form, and you can actually write it as a product of one-step probability transitions. And you are going to ask, now that I know my trajectory both for the visible and the hidden variable, I'm going to ask, what are the parameters that maximize the probability to have this trajectory generated? That means, if I give you a simple example, assume I have like, I don't know, this 5 dots on the red line, and I'm asking for the probability distributions parameterized by these two numbers that are the most likely to have generated this data. And of course, you can guess that the green one is the most likely to have generated this data. And nice property of maximum likelihood estimator, if under some hypothesis, if you put enough data, they are optimal. And I recommend you to refer to previous talk from Karen Palacio Rodriguez about maximum likelihood estimations for Langevin dynamic, but actually that's the same algorithm that you are using it here once you have generated the hidden variable history. So now, you're going to tell me, for one step I need the parameter, for the step I need the hidden variable history, so I'm going to have some problem. So the way you are dealing with it, if you have an iterative algorithm, you start initialize your parameter at some value. You have to take, you can take completely random value as long as it's not too bad choice. That means you have choice, but just are not feasible, so you have to remove them from the choice, but overall completely random. You first compute the expectation of the log likelihood. So you are going to maximize the log likelihood, not the max likelihood. And you simply do it by using the fact that from the E-step, you know the probability of the trajectory of the hidden variable given the visible variables. So that gives you some functions, and we call f. And this f, in green here, you can show it's a lower bound over the real likelihood you want to optimize. So what you are going to show is, now that you have computed this form, you can maximize this lower bound, give you a new estimate of the parameter. And once you have done this, you simply iterate again, so you do a new E-step that gives you a new expectation of the log likelihood that allow you to compute a new set of parameters, that allow you to compute a new set of hidden variable history, and so forth. And you iterate in equivalence and the like property, and you know at some point you are going to converge. So this is the way you are going to get the parameter. So of course, first I'm going to show you that my algorithm is working. So here it's a very simple example of just test trajectory. So I'm taking a system with one-dimensional visible variables inside the quadratic potentials. I'm putting 5 hidden dimensions and choose completely random value for the friction matrix. And just shows that she has some kind of hierarchical structure, that means she has some kind of block structure. And launching 20 trajectory with quite a number of time steps, and I'm trying to reconstruct the memory kernel and the velocity to operating function. So the memory kernel, I can simply get it by the fact it's promissory from the parameters that are completely computable from the parameter of my equations. So here, of course, I know the true value, and I can compare to the memory kernel that is reconstructed by the algorithms, and you can see that they agree quite well. Especially when you know that the length of the trajectory is actually around here. But you see my cursor, but that means you have trajectory that are of the order of the length of the memory kernel. I mean, that is of scale, but it's still you have features that are like quite long living. For the velocity autocorrection function, once I have a parameter, I can launch new trajectory and compute the velocity autocorrection functions, both on the original data and on the new sample trajectory, and compare both. You can see that they are quicker, especially in the beginning. It's more messy in the end, but I guess we can put it in the sampling effect. So, nice thing, the algorithm is able to retrieve the parameter you put into the model if you have used the model first. Second test case that I have is I can try to study a non-equilibrium two-dimensional setup. By non-equilibrium, I'm speaking of a stationary non-equilibrium system. That means I have a two-dimensional particles where I have a noise with some temperature into the y-axis and a different temperature on the x-axis. It's also a quadratic potentials. So here you have the cross sections of the potential for the value potential equal 1. And the main idea is that the principal axis of your potential are not aligned with the axis along which the temperature is different. So that's going to generate some non-equilibrium. And in which case, I can simply do the same. I mean, that's a system that I'm studying like in Langevin, for the Langevin case, but I can simply take it as a test system and choose some random friction matrix, point some trajectory, and do the same. So the nice thing here is that actually I recover the potential because the potential is also fitted into the equations. The memory kernel here only represents one of the components of the memory kernel quite well fitted, and we also retrieve the velocity correlation functions. So there are nice properties of the model. If you have a good model at the beginning, you can retrieve a parameter. So I'm quite happy with it. But I'm trying to also look at more complicated systems. So here it's a simple example of 64 Lennard-Jones particles into a 3D box. So it's a quite small box. You are going to see some boundary effect, but it's not very important. I'm choosing two of the particles and I decide that they're from a dimer, putting some different epsilon value for the Lennard-Jones potential between the two particles, and I'm studying the distance between these two particles. And this is my qualitative variables. First, I can look at the potential of mean force, see that I'm apparent, so it's B-stable systems. You actually see here some kind of boundary effect that complex your dimer, but you retrieve it. You can try to do the fits. So here, of course, you don't know the number of hidden dimensions. So what you are doing is you are running different optimization with different number of hidden dimensions, and you can see that. So I didn't show you 1 and 2, but 3, 4, 3 it's not that good, and 4 and 6, 4 and 5, sorry, do converge one over. So in this region, the conversion is quite good, so you can guess that with 5 hidden dimensions, you have a nice representation of the memory kernel. You are going to tell me that in this region it's not so good, and I will agree with you. So why I'm done something different? I have launched new trajectory with this system. I forgot to tell you here that the data, as I didn't know the true memory kernel here, it's simply the result of Volterra equations applied to the systems. So the somehow usual way to get the memory kernel. So I can launch new trajectory. So here I'm going to launch 50 trajectory from the model. So here on top you have like the raw trajectory coming from the long simulations, and on the bottom you have a new trajectory that have been generated with the model. I mean by eye, but I mean it's a stochastic equation. You are not going to see any difference, but they look similar. The nice thing is I can run the new trajectory with a different time step if I want. I can take a longer or smaller time step. That doesn't really matter because I have a model that I can adjust. And it's nice things. And on those new trajectory, what I'm doing, I am computing the memory kernel with Volterra equations on the new trajectory. So the idea is I am applying the same algorithm to get the memory kernel, both on the original data and on the new data. And what you can see is now you fit quite well the memory kernel retrieved by Volterra equations. And the small separation here, it's actually compensated because it's a log scale plot. So if you are going not log scale plot here, you are going to see that the separation here actually the curve come back together at longer time, smaller time scale. The velocity autocorrelation function is also well reproduced. I mean, and you can see that it's still very coherent that with 3 hidden dimensions you didn't recover so well the property of the systems, but 4 and 5 are quite enough hidden dimensions. So you don't really need to introduce very important number of hidden dimensions to the system. You can ask, does the hidden variable that I introduced really have an effect? And this is why I also plot the velocity correlation function taken from the case where I didn't put any hidden variable that will give me a Markovian estimations of the system. And you can see that the velocity correlation function in blue dotted here, it's really completely off with respect to the data. So you really need to put those memory kernel to retrieve correctly the dynamic. So to conclude, one nice thing is when you introduce this auxiliary or hidden variables, general transform equations are much simpler to manage from the point of view of generating new trajectory and fitting with maximum likelihood. So using this hidden variable, we introduce a parameterized model, and this parameterized model allows us to build an expectation maximization estimator of the general transform equations. The nice thing is not only you get the parameter of the equation, but you also get some idea of the history of the hidden variables. So you can really try to get what are the value along the time of the hidden variables. Once you have this model, it's a generative model, so you can run new trajectory and do whatever you want with this new trajectory. You can compute observables, like you just get more sampling, like this. And everything has been plugged to Python plan that we hope to release soon with the soon to publish and soon to finish to write article that we are working on. So thank you for your attention, and I refer you to the previous talk by Rodolphe and Benjamin if you want to see a deterministic approach that doesn't call to so much probability distributions.